Reporting live from Ibis Glove, Fright Plus News, I'm John Abba.
The state's autopsy is complete, but is being kept secret. Isn't an autopsy a public document?
We are now over 30 days since the mysterious death of Black Mississippi teen Nolan Wells, whose body will be found 2 days after traveling to an island with friends, with still no answers. According to his friends, Wells would decide to stay on what has now been identified as Horn Island because he wanted to continue speaking with a girl he had just met. Now, according to reports, this exchange between the friends would take place around 3 p.m. on July 4th, and everything that would follow after appears to be a part of the mystery. Now, what typically helps investigators confirm what someone's cause of death was, and what is crucial to solving cases like this, is an official autopsy. For those who don't know, an autopsy is a surgical examination of a body, where a doctor cuts open a deceased person to look for any abnormal findings. For Wells, his state autopsy would be conducted on July 7th, a day after he was found on Horn Island. But now, a growing concern for many is that we still don't know what the results of the autopsy was, despite reports confirming that it was completed at the end of July. Now, this lack of transparency has caused many to sound off about it and feel that a cover-up could be taking place, especially after a second autopsy would reveal that key body parts of Wells were never released to be examined by his family. Over on Threads, Hughley, who has been monitoring the case, is now reminding everyone that we still not have been provided any updates about Wells' original autopsy, which now appears will continue to be hidden. He will go on to write, "For everybody keeping score, we still haven't seen pics of those rescued airmen in Iran or Nolan Wells' autopsy report!" Hughley's issue with Wells' state autopsy being hidden looks to reflect a huge concern for those following the case, especially after authorities would express that they would give transparency. Many would join Hughley and have called out their suspicions involving Wells' original autopsy.
The state's autopsy is complete, but is being kept secret. Isn't an autopsy a public document? Why is it being kept hidden from us, the public? What is in that autopsy, the first autopsy of Nolan Wells? We want justice in this case. We don't want secret grand jury proceedings. We don't want secret medical examiner reports. We want all threats investigated. We want the truth behind that audio. I want to know. And I want everybody on that boat polygraph.
Would-be investigators in the case of Nolan Wells have now advised that the state's medical examiner is not going to release the final autopsy report on Nolan. What does that mean? Well, to the extent that this case was being treated as a homicide has no statute of limitations, which means the state has no deadline, no rush to come to a conclusion in the investigation, to close the investigation, to forward it to a prosecutor's office. The reason why that's relevant is that they are not rushed to disclose anything. Now, how it affects us is for purposes of Freedom of Information Act requests or the further formal demands that the state release any documents. Typically, one of the few ways the state can get around that is due to the case being treated as an open investigation. As long as the case is an open investigation, the state does not have to disclose anything to anyone because it's incomplete, it's ongoing, there's certain confidentiality, privilege exceptions, protection of certain witnesses, etc. So as long as the case remains open, no one can force the state to do anything as far as disclosure.
Now, the lack of transparency surrounding the case has also caused many, now including Nolan's friends, who went to Horn Island to kick off their own investigations. Over the weekend, Warren Hudson and Jax Patalo, who were with Wells on July 4th, would return back to Horn Island along with their attorneys. According to them, this was for their team to gain further insight as to the location of Horn Island and its conditions. In a statement given to TMZ, one of the attorneys would share the reactions of Hudson and Patalo returning to Horn Island. The trip was tough for Warren and Jax because that's the last place they saw their best friend. Now, as we would know, this is Warren's known second trip back, as he would take online commentator Brandon Tatum to Horn Island. Now, it was during this original return that several body language experts would comment on Hudson's demeanor, including one who would specifically note the lack of emotion he would showcase during his first return trip to Horn Island.
So this person, Warren, described Nolan Wells as his best friend and brother. 2 weeks later, he did not attend the funeral, and he did not ever seem like emotional or frustrated or sad that he couldn't attend his best friend's funeral because he didn't want to be there and do all the uncomfort, which is fair, but that should at least be hard for you. And then 2 weeks after, you go back to the last spot where you saw your best friend. There was no change in his vocal tone, his body language. There was no emotional trying to hold anything back. He was far more comfortable talking about the details of a bilge on a boat than he was about anything that happened to his supposed best friend. These things are just incredibly odd. And as a psychotherapist and someone who interviews people, like that would stand out to me as super duper unusual.
Now, as many continue to figure out what happened to Wells, the lack of presenting his autopsy findings has only fueled speculation. In a new interview with former Mississippi Judge Carlos Moore that is out now in its entirety for Hype Plus members, he would raise questions as to why Wells' autopsy may be being withheld.
But to keep everybody in limbo and saying you're doing a confidential investigation, you can't reveal any of the facts until it goes to the grand jury. That's not the way it's normally done. I mean, you could tell certain things to calm down the community if you wanted to. Law enforcement is sitting in the catbird seat and they could...
Because I would imagine they would have a lot of key evidence by now.
Correct.
With help from the FBI, phone, digital investigations. I'm sure they probably have a good idea what took place. But for whatever reason, they are not disclosing that. Do you think them not disclosing that is because it's either something that we don't want to hear as far as people that are supporting Nolan, or is it because it may incriminate certain people? Why do you think they will hold on to this information?
My personal belief is if it was something that exonerated the so-called fringe, I think they would release it sooner than later.
Right away.
But if it's something that may implicate the so-called fringe or people that they may know, that's the reason to hold it longer than not, because I've seen it time and time again, and you've probably seen it. Law enforcement will release video footage of someone that may have broken somebody's house. They'll ask the public to help them identify certain people. So they release what they want to release when they want to release it. That's part of an investigation. But if it helps them figure out something or whatever, they will release it. And so they could release parts of this if they wanted to at this time, and it would not be anything criminal in nature to do so.
As mentioned, our full interview with Moore is now available in the Hype Plus YouTube membership section. Now, as far as other reasons why we may not have gotten the reports back, can be connected to investigators now using these findings for their case. And according to some, it is kept quiet to not tip off possible suspects if ever questioned. As of now, the family of Nolan Wells and supporters now continue to wait for the case to be presented to a grand jury on an unannounced date to determine if the case can be updated as a criminal case now that the investigation appears to be near conclusion. Let's talk about it more in the comments below. Do you find it odd that we still haven't heard about any of the results from Wells' original autopsy, despite his second autopsy being conducted days after, yet still being released earlier? Reporting live from Hypers Club for Hype Plus News, I'm John Abba.